What did Christmas night teach the rest of the NFL? Well, it's probably best not to think of the Ravens as underdogs anymore. Record-wise, they are the best team through 16 weeks, and they did it by total domination of the 49ers.
Our guys work hard, and they compete hard, and you know, everybody wants to be respected. So, but there's one way to be respected, and that's to go out there and earn that. You know, as an athlete and as a football player especially. It needs to be done on the field in the game, you know, and I'm proud of our guys for the way they did that tonight.
We know what it was 2019. You know, we was playing against guys like this, winning games, winning regular season games. And when the time came, we didn't finish the season, so we just gonna keep taking it a day at a time, you know, practice at a time and a game at a time. That's all I'm focused on right now.
Jackson is the odds favorite for MVP all around. CMC has the second best odds, followed by Tua Tagovailoa. Jackson could land his second MVP on New Year's Eve, but he's really after what all the Ravens are, a win over Miami, and they get the AFC North and #1 seed for the playoffs to run through Baltimore.
All right, one last check on your forecast. We continue to track that rain moving in our direction. So we're in a lull right now. Not a lot of rain, but we do have plenty of fog in the area. And more of this rain moving in as we go into the overnight hours here. You can see visibility getting tough out there, too. Dense fog. And looking at that forecast through the night, you can see it's going to be a wet weather scenario and dense fog at times. We'll have the complete forecast, of course, coming up on the news at 6.
Wyatt, thank you. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 6, a local doctor traveling to help treat patients in Israel, what he saw from just outside the war zone. Plus, new concerns over Hamas-inspired terrorist attacks here in the U.S. The warnings coming from top U.S. defense officials tonight.
A Baltimore area doctor traveling 6,000 miles away to help those impacted by the war in the Middle East. His heroic story and the lessons he learned during his time overseas. The fallout surrounding Maryland's college savings plan continues while parents are being asked to pay taxes on what was once touted as a tax-free investment.
I'm Wyatt Everhart, tracking more rain headed toward Maryland and plenty of fog tonight. Those details straight ahead.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 6.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala. Thank you so much for staying with us tonight. Fox 45 tracking storms headed for Baltimore and the impact it could have on your post-holiday plans. Taking a live look outside tonight, you can Some clouds hanging over the Baltimore area. Plenty of fog out there. You're taking a live look at Baltimore, Towson, and of course our weather radar meteorologist Wyatt Everhart. Here now, Wyatt, you are tracking a whole heck of a lot of rain out there.
Yeah, I'm trying to track, but it's hard to see. Look, the bottom line, Mary, is absolutely had such a great Christmas day now. In the wake of Christmas, the ugly weather has rolled in big time. We got rain, soaking rains out in western Maryland. Some of that's going to be edging its way into Baltimore as we go into the later evening hours. Overnight tonight, even heavier rain out of Lynchburg, pushing up into the 95 corridor around Baltimore, D.C. Also have dense fog in areas, points west of Baltimore right now. Some spots less than a tenth of a mile of visibility, so low beams required. Silver lining, temperatures way above average still, 50 in Baltimore today, even with all the clouds and precipitation out there. Through the night, we'll hover in the 40s into the low 50s by first thing tomorrow. Waves of heavy rain, though, especially into the morning and into tomorrow afternoon. We'll look more at that detail. And when we clear out and the new year changes there, all of it is coming up.
Wyatt, thank you. Put the power of the Weather Authority Storm Center in your hands. Download the free WBFF Weather Authority app for your smartphone. Use our powerful Doppler radar to follow storms right down to your street. Just go to our app store, search WBFF to get started.
I could be in Baltimore, I could be in Canada, I could be in Israel. It doesn't really matter. I'm in a trauma bay. There's a patient that's dying in front of me. What am I going to do to help save this person?
Those words from a Baltimore area emergency room doctor who just returned from Israel. Dr. Dov Frankel sharing his story with Fox 45 News and what he learned after treating trauma patients coming out of a war zone. Our Amy Simpson sat down with Dr. Frankel and has more on his heroic efforts.
We prayed for her friend.
It's quite possible he's treated you, a family member, maybe a neighbor, in the emergency room at GBMC.
So I had this bag packed. I had absolutely no idea when I was going.
But for the first half of November, Dr. Dov Frankel
It was the most incredible thing of my life.
was instead treating patients roughly 6,000 miles away.
I think everyone has a moment in their life where all their worlds come together. And so I'm fluent in Hebrew. I practiced in Israel, so I know the Israeli medical system. And I do emergency and trauma medicine.
Leaving behind his wife, 5 kids, and 5 grandkids in the States. Hopping on a plane just weeks after the Hamas terrorist attack. Frankel taking his medical skills overseas to Israel through an organization called Emergency Volunteers Project.
Barzilai Hospital in Ashkelon.
That medical center, he says, sits just a few miles north of the Gaza Strip.
We only saw the patients that came out of Gaza. We were 10 kilometers away from Gaza, and we treated soldiers and Palestinians. Those are the only people we treated.
The physician describing what it was like working in the midst of a war.
The first day was a little bit scary because, you know, it's a constant boom that you hear. It's like July 4th nonstop, so it's a constant boom that you're hearing.
Photos from what he called 2 weeks in the foxhole, providing only a small glimpse of what his trauma shifts looked like.
Day 1, I treated my first soldier, and, you know, I walk into a trauma room with Arab physicians, Russian physicians, Israeli physicians, all together, but we all spoke the common language of trauma.
That trauma bay, according to Frankel, sits inside a bomb shelter where he and a team of doctors treated many patients.
Some of the injuries are light. Some of them, unfortunately, were very, very harsh injuries, and some of them didn't make it. So the range was huge.
But treating trauma from a war zone, a stark contrast to the patients he sees in Baltimore.
I've been doing this for 20 years. In my life, I've never seen shrapnel injuries. I've never seen an RPG rocket. I've never seen an RPG rocket or anti-missile rocket hit a person or hit a building and then hit a person.
A learning experience even for a seasoned trauma doctor.
I learned a lot about shrapnel injury, and I feel very proficient now in shrapnel injury, unfortunately.
Despite the very real danger of being in the region, Frankel said it was faith, not fear, on his mind.
I was never worried about it because I didn't think God was going to make me travel 6,000 miles to get killed over there.
And as the war continues thousands of miles away, this physician says he'd go back in a heartbeat.
I have a bag packed. I'm ready.
And that was Amy Simpson reporting. Baltimore City Councilwoman Odette Ramos is weighing in on recent anti-Semitic vandalism in Hamden. Two of the homes in the Miracle on 34th Street light display became the targets of vandalism. The homeowners saying they found smashed watermelons in their yards and on their holiday displays. Jewish residents in the area say the vandalism is just the latest in a series of anti-Semitic incidents they have faced since the start of the war in the Middle East.
I had a man he called me a dirty Jew multiple times, and it wasn't anything to do with the protest, and this is completely unrelated. But that's what our life is now. That's what we're living.
I think vandalizing an individual's front yard because of a flag that they hang in their window doesn't accomplish anything other than make me feel less safe.
Well, today, Ramos released a statement saying she spent time with the families impacted by the vandalism. She also noted there's been a rise in both anti-Semitic and Islamophobic incidents in Hamden specifically this year, and that there is no place for hate in Baltimore. Now, Ramos was one of 4 council members who abstained from voting on a resolution condemning anti-Semitism this month, saying the resolution failed to acknowledge the rise in Islamophobia as well. The council members who abstained later proposed their own resolution condemning hate in all forms while calling for a ceasefire in Israel. That resolution did not get enough support from the council to pass. Meanwhile, the White House says U.S. forces have retaliated after a drone attack by an Iran-backed militant wounded 3 American service members in Iraq yesterday morning. National correspondent Atra El-Nashar has more on how the Israel-Hamas war is escalating threats against Americans at home and abroad.
In the wake of Hamas,
the U.S. under a growing threat of attacks by extreme actors for its staunch backing of Israel. A top Iranian commander says the U.S. and its allies could soon see the closure of the Mediterranean Sea and other waterways. It's unclear how, but it does follow attacks against commercial ships in the Red Sea carried out by Iran-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen.
These attacks are impacting global trade and commerce, negatively impacting the economies of nations around the world.
Threats against Israel's allies intensify as conditions in Gaza get worse. This footage shows the aftermath of Israeli strikes Sunday on the Al-Maghazi refugee camp that killed more than 100 people, according to the Hamas-run Ministry of Health, which reports a death toll of more than 20,600 since October 7th.
There has been no significant change in the way the war has been unfolding in Gaza. There is no effective protection of civilians.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says it will be a long fight as global pressure is building on Israel to transition to more targeted operations in the interest of sparing civilian lives. Here in the U.S., the Department of Justice says it's received more than 1,800 reports of threats or other tips connected to the conflict in Israel and Gaza. Here's Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco.
We have this range of ideologies that can motivate and inspire individuals to violence.
FBI Director Christopher Wray and members of Congress also concerned about the potential for a terrorist attack in the U.S.
The threat levels at our all-time high, October the 7th, put gasoline on a fire.
Law enforcement and security officials urging Americans to be vigilant, especially through New Year's Day, as public gatherings could be targets for violence. In Washington, I'm Atra El-Nashar reporting.
Announcing that the war against Hamas in Gaza is, quote, a long fight and is not close to ending. It comes as a close confidant of the prime minister is expected to meet with senior Biden administration officials as the U.S. looks to move Israel away from launching high-intensity attacks to limit civilian casualties. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, Secretary of State Antony Blinken, and several members of Congress are all expected to be at that meeting. Well, still ahead, Maryland's embattled college savings program is facing another controversy tonight. Why the year-long financial nightmare isn't over for just yet for more than 100 families. Tonight, Fox 45 News pressing lawmakers as controversy surrounding the state's college savings plan continues. The state agreed to repay Maryland families after their savings were suddenly slashed earlier this year. But instead of being paid back in full, some account holders will now be forced to pay taxes on what was supposed to be a tax-free investment. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor has a closer look at the controversy and the frustration from parents tonight.
Yeah, the Treasurer's Office tells me at least 150 accounts are impacted. It is a devastating case of deja vu for these families that thought this year-long financial battle that they had been facing was finally over.
A promise to pay back Maryland families whose college savings accounts were slashed without warning in 2022 made many parents believe the fight had been won.
I am just grateful that he did the right thing and honored our contracts.
But for those with complicated cases who were forced to file claims with the state treasurer's office, they now fear another fight has just begun.
We thought we're at the end of the line now. Everything is finally settled down. And there's kind of one last, twist of the knife into us that they're trying to do.
Ken Sachs, among those receiving his long-awaited settlement offer this month, the state granting Sachs nearly $10,000 in interest earnings that they now say shouldn't have been taken from his account in the first place.
It was pretty much the number I was expecting.
Until further review of the fine print revealing the unexpected tax considerations on his tax-free investment.
The crux of the plan was that it was a tax-free plan. I mean, if that's their intent, that would be pretty terrible.
Not only would it shortchange Sachs's settlement,
$3,000 pretty much right off the top.
Taxing these, in many cases, large payouts will push people into another tax bracket, causing a ripple effect of further financial consequences.
Your income goes up by the amount of the earnings. So there's certain phase outs, child tax credits. And then also, if you're applying for financial aid, for FAFSA forms, that now goes in as interest. And it's going to be a lump sum payment.
Potentially preventing parents from securing financial aid or interest-free loans.
It would have significant repercussions.
Other claimants sounding off on social media. One writing, quote, "I think we need some serious answers on treating this as a taxable event. If that is the case, then I will file another claim so they can pay my taxes on this money. This is absolutely ridiculous." Another writing, "This is a bad turn of events. I think we need clarification, media attention, and a response from the state legislators who wanted parents to be made whole by a claims process." The state treasurer's office confirming while the payouts are exempt from state and local taxes, lawmakers did not make an exemption for federal taxes. Today, Fox 45 reaching out to the dozens of lawmakers who backed the Maryland 529 legislation, asking, is it fair to tax funds Maryland families invested in a tax-free plan? And how will you address this issue? As of news time tonight, no response, even from lawmakers who took the reins in calling for residents to be fully reimbursed earlier this year.
We should not wait another day before we make these families whole.
Back in January, Senator Mary Washington issuing a statement calling on the state attorney general to investigate the embattled college trust.
I think we should pay everybody, pay everything.
Fox 45 initially asking Washington for a response to the new tax troubles on December 15th and again today, but Washington says she has no comment.
Now, we also reached out to the state treasurer's office again today, asking if they had really explored every possibility that could prevent these settlements from being federally taxed. As of news time tonight, though, I have not heard back. In the newsroom, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Metropolitan Police are searching for a suspect following a fatal shooting outside a metro station in southwest D.C. Happened around 4:30 this morning near L'Enfant Plaza Metro Station. At the scene, officers found a man with several gunshot wounds. He was taken to a nearby hospital where he later died. Police have released this photo of the man they say is behind the shooting. He is described as 5'6", wearing dark clothing. Anybody with information asked to call police immediately.
All right, take a look out there. I mean, you can see we are socked in with the fog, M&T Bank Stadium, Towson, and the radar certainly looks active as well out there. So, bottom line, more of the same. Looking at some unsettled weather, some very wet weather at times overnight, especially into the day tomorrow. You can see the rain running up through Front Royal, Virginia right now, up toward Winchester, and also out into western Maryland toward Hagerstown. Significant moisture down here toward Greensboro and the Carolinas is going to be running up into Maryland as we go overnight and especially into the day on Wednesday. In the meantime, not so much in terms of rain, but plenty of fog. Tough to see at Ravens Stadium right now. We've got 47 degrees with 2 miles of visibility at the airport at best. And as we go through the next several hours, overnight into the morning sunrise time frame tomorrow, fog will be drifting from east to west, at times diminishing visibilities down to less than 1/10 of a mile. So drive with caution, give yourself extra time, expect wet conditions and yes, foggy conditions as well overnight. The numbers running in the upper 40s through the so mild trend continues. There's a silver lining, but bottom line, another big round of rain tonight and into your day on Wednesday. Drier setup as we go into the new year, however, and I think actually a pretty nice looking day of weather come Thursday around here. In the meantime, it is the rain train out ahead of this boundary locked into the Shenandoah right now. We're going to see rain continue to run from basically south to north right up into Baltimore, running the 95 corridor overnight and into the day tomorrow. Wet weather continuing into Wednesday. Maybe the heaviest of this will be toward Delmarva through the afternoon and evening hours tomorrow, but still some scattered downpours around Baltimore itself right through tomorrow night, finally beginning to clear out through the day on Thursday. In terms of cold weather, it is for now bottled up all well west of Chicago into the mountain northwest. That will be drifting further eastward, though, for the new year, so expect a cool down long term. Short term, actually going milder. 55 tomorrow, 60 on Thursday. Nice day if you happen to have the day off. After that, cooler and drier for Saturday and Sunday. Pretty good looking weather for our Ravens game day. We'll check the extended 10-day forecast coming up in just a few.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
Snow covers about 20% of the country, according to NOAA's National Snow Analysis, including here in Aurora, Colorado. And blizzard warnings remain in effect for portions of the plains through tomorrow morning. Certainly no snow in Mobile, Alabama, but the Gulf Coast community was treated to a full moon and halo over the holiday weekend.
Listen to Off the Radar, new episodes every Tuesday. Find it wherever you get your podcasts.
Migrants in D.C. saying they are facing tough challenges in the land of opportunity, the struggles one migrant mother has experienced and why she says she may move back to her home country. The D.C. government is facing questions tonight about how it's helping migrants who have been bused to the nation's capital after seeking asylum and crossing the border. Some are saying the city is not doing enough. Christian Flores from our Sinclair sister station in D.C. has more.
I tried to come to the United States like so many others for stability and a future.
But this journey has only gotten more turbulent for this mother of a 1-year-old child from Venezuela. She has to conceal her identity for her safety as she is seeking asylum in America.
I heard that I could get help with shelter and with my baby here in Washington.
However, that refuge has been hard to come by.
After 3 days, they said that we couldn't stay anymore.
She was able to find a place to stay, but will have to leave there Tuesday, the day after Christmas, which should be a day of celebration and gifts for her child.
She doesn't have any gifts to open. We don't have a stable place to celebrate Christmas as a family.
7 News is on your side, asking DC DHS, which runs the migrant shelters, is the city still not able to house additional migrants? Will the city